Welcome back to all of your favorite Edge of Fate builds, where I'm going to show you all of the best Warlock, Titan, and Hunter Edge of Fate builds under the new stat system, under all the mod changes, under all the gear changes, and so on and so forth. Today, we are taking a look at Starfire Protocol Warlock. Yes, it is absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, back, primarily due to a lot of the stat changes that occurred. But before I show you exactly what the build is and how you're going to want to set it up, let me just show you what it's capable of doing, okay? We're just going to go ahead and launch both of our grenades, get rid of them. We're going to get Radiant right here, and then we're just going to go a couple. Look at the grenade. Look at the grenade icon down there. We already have both grenades back. We're just going to waste them both again. It's fine. It's whatever. Look at that grenade icon. Look at how often we get our grenades back. It's just that easy. All you got to do is kill a couple dudes, and then you get to be slinging grenades left, right, and center if you go ahead and slap on this build. Well, first things first, we got Starfire Protocol. Fusion grenades have an additional charge and recharge from empowered weapon damage. So that's going to count from Well of Radiance damage. That's going to count from Empowering Rift damage. And most importantly, it's going to count from Radiant damage, which is going to be the primary way that we take advantage of this benefit. And empowered weapon final blows are going to grant more energy. And the key thing to note here is that, as far as I can tell, across the board, it gives you the same amount of grenade refund energy regardless of enemy type. So if I waste both of my grenades and then I go ahead and obtain Radiant, so I have empowered weapon damage, as far as I can tell, it takes me about 5 red bar low lackey tier 1 scions to go ahead and get both of my grenades back. But if I come over here and I boot up a couple centurions, get rid of that, there we go, hit him with that right there, blast him. As far as I can tell, similarly, it's looking like it's giving me about 40% of a grenade charge per final blow before you factor in just the refund that you're getting just for hits. So what's nice is, works really well on tanky targets, because not only do you get a ton of grenade energy back for getting the final blow, but just by hitting them with the empowered weapon damage, you're also getting grenade energy back. So it's also very good at dealing with tanky targets like the Centurions, Champions, Bosses, things of that nature. As far as the rest of the build goes, we're going to take a closer look at Starfire Protocol. Defeating targets with fusion grenades grants Rift energy. And it doesn't just grant Rift energy, it just gives straight up class ability energy. As you can see, I'm currently on Phoenix Dive, and if I chuck a grenade at that Scion right there, I completely get my class ability back just like that. And it actually seems like one grenade kill just auto gives me back my class ability, which is going to be a key thing with this build. Absolutely spectacular. We're going to be pairing it, obviously, with the Pure Solar subclass, not only because it has access to the fusion grenade, but because of the aspects that it comes with. So let's walk through the subclass. We're going with Well of Radiance because it's just a big 30-second circle that gives you permanent 30 seconds of empowered weapon damage. It actually gives you a little bit more than that, because as you step out of the Well of Radiance, it gives you Radiant, which is additional time of empowered weapon damage. We're going to go with Phoenix Dive, actually, for this setup. I know you might think that you typically want Empowering Rift, but because of the recent changes to Starfire Protocol working with Radiant, Empowering Rift is really not necessary to make this build feel really good anymore, and we're actually going to take advantage of the second paragraph of Phoenix Dive to help with this build's survivability, so it's borderline impossible to die with it. While Heat Rises is active, you gain Restoration while diving and Scorched targets upon landing. We're going to show you how to maintain that infinitely as you're playing the game. But you can honestly go with whatever melee you like here. Your melee isn't going to be utilized too much with this build. Celestial Fire is basically the best choice for if you want to turn this build online from any range, as it is significantly more ranged of a melee than the alternative option in Incinerator Snap. Incinerator Snap is if you want to play a little bit more close range, but you want to go for maximum damage because it applies more score stacks, especially if you can land all of those bolts at an enemy right in front of you. Fusion Grenade, for obvious reasons, we get 2 of them, and it's the core part of this build. Now, for our aspects, Touch of Flame is actually the main thing that makes the Starfire build so good, because it makes all of our fusion grenades explode twice. So we don't actually have 2 fusion grenades, we actually kind of have 4 fusion grenades. Our other aspect is actually going to be Heat Rises, which might sound a little interesting. You might be like, Mac, why do I care about Heat Rises? I don't really care about like floating around airborne. That doesn't really seem like it matters when I'm slinging grenades. Here's the key thing. It's because of how it synergizes with Phoenix Dive. And what I mean by that is, before you start your rotation, if you eat a grenade to activate Heat Rises, and then you throw it on your Phoenix side, you get 3 seconds of restoration ×2, which might not sound like that big of a deal. It's actually a really big deal for survivability. You'll see right now, it's because of our aspects. The first aspect I want to talk about is the Ember of Torches, where powered melee attacks against combatants make you and nearby allies radiant. And this is why I really like Celestial Fire with this build, because if I can hit an enemy from any range and boom, I'm Radiant, then that's what allows me to turn on the empowered weapon damage for this build and be constantly refunding all of my grenades so I can be slinging my grenades left, right, and center. Then, if you pair this with a solar weapon in conjunction with the Ember of Empyrean, as long as you're consistently getting solar final blows or any ability final blows, fusion grenade final blows, melee final blows, or your solar weapon final blows, it's going to increase the duration of both Radiant and Restoration. The Radiant increase is really important for this because it means all we have to do is land one melee, and then as long as we're consistently killing enemies, we're consistently and constantly increasing the duration of our Radiant, which means that we always have empowered weapon damage being dished out, which means we always have our grenades being dished out, and those grenades obviously are also going to increase the duration of that Radiant because of Empyrean. When we look at the Restoration side of things, it's also getting increased by all of our solar weapon final blows and all of our ability final blows, which means effectively, if we have both Radiant and Restoration up, so if we eat a grenade for Heat Rises, hit a Phoenix Dive, and then hit a melee for Radiant, as long as we're consistently killing enemies, we have permanent uptime of Restoration ×2 and Radiant, as you can see over there in the left side of my screen, all while we're consistently getting loads of grenade energy refund just from killing a bunch of enemies. So once again, we're going to go ahead and eat a grenade for Heat Rises, Radiant, Restoration, and then all we have to do is continuously kill these enemies. Can weave in between weapon final blows and grenade final blows. Grenade at that guy, throw a weapon at that guy, weapon at that guy. It's seriously just that easy. And it's actually really nice for team play as well, because of how often you are getting your class ability available, and you can just spam it next to your teammates, and you're always going to be curing them from the Phoenix Dive, because every time you land that grenade final blow, it's going to immediately give you your Phoenix Dive back. So if we pretend we had teammates around me, right, I'll go ahead and eat the grenade, get the Radiant plus the Phoenix Dive for Restoration, kill this enemy, throw a fusion grenade at that enemy. Oh, there's my Phoenix Dive back again. Let me go ahead and hit it. Grenade at that guy. Go ahead and shoot this guy. There's my Phoenix Dive. Go ahead and kill my teammates. Throw that. There's my Phoenix Dive again. Go ahead and kill my teammates. Shoot that guy. Go ahead and Phoenix. Grenade that guy, rather, sorry. Phoenix Dive again. Heal my teammates. Probably starting to see how this comes together, yeah? As far as the rest of the setup goes, we are going to be going with the Ember of Ashes so that we apply more scored stacks to targets, is just because our fusion grenades scored targets. More scored stacks means more ignitions. More ignitions means more damage. Kind of a no-brainer. Final slot, Ember of Searing. Defeating scorched targets grants melee energy and creates a fire sprite, just to be able to keep our melee online so that if we do run out of that Radiant buff, we have another melee on deck to go ahead and hit an enemy with, so we enable that empowered weapon damage once again, and then we're good to continue slinging grenades. If you want to take a little bit more advantage of your Heat Rises activity, another aspect of Heat Rises, if you're airborne and get a final blow while Heat Rises is active, it actually gives you melee energy. So basically what we can do to make sure we always have our melee up, to be able to continuously keep this rotation going when we do eventually run out of our Radiant, is we'll go ahead and pop that, melee him just like that, and then we'll kind of stay airborne for our Heat Rises. And so we're getting bonus melee back from the final blows while we're airborne. And we're getting melee back from Searing every time we get a final blow on an enemy with a grenade, because the fusion grenade is going to be scorching. And then so when we eventually do run out of our buffs, we're good to go. We already have a melee ability ready to go. Now, in terms of weapon pairings, you can really run whatever you want with this build, as long as you are utilizing a solar primary ammo weapon, preferably one with Demolitionist if you've got something like that, because it's just going to give you even more grenade energy refund anytime you get a final blow with the weapon, not only for the empowered weapon final blow through Starfire Protocol, but then you're also going to get a chunk of grenade energy back through Demolitionist as well. My number one recommendation would probably be something like the Zauli's Bane, where you can simply run something like Explosive Payload along with Demolitionist, which is an absolutely spectacular roll. All you gotta do is do a couple King's Fall runs. If you get 5 red borders of this, then you can go ahead and craft it right up. If you're not much of a raider, there's plenty of other solar weapons that have Demolitionist on them. Just make sure that you are indeed using a solar weapon so that you can take advantage of the Ember of Empyrean, which requires solar weapon final blows to extend the durations of your restoration and radiant buffs. Now let's talk stats, because that's one of the newest things in this update, and honestly, it really couldn't be more straightforward with Warlock. You just want as much grenade stat as humanly possible, because if you can get up to the 200 grenade stat mark, all of your grenades are going to be doing 65% bonus damage. As we get deeper into the expansion, as our power levels get up, and as we gain access to harder content, that'll allow us to get higher tiers of armor, which will drop with higher total stat packages and more favorable stat distributions. So as time goes on, we will be able to more easily hit 200s in these specific stat categories. So don't worry too much if you're at like the 100, 120, 140 range, because we will be able to get to 200. All of these builds will only get better with time. What I said about previous builds, what I've been saying is that all current builds, I would say, are at like 70 to 75% of their current strength. Once we start to get more armor and higher tier armor, and we can be a little bit more picky choosy with where we put our stat points and how many stat points we get in total, we'll be able to get to those 200 stat packages, and our grenades will be doing an absolute ludicrous amount of damage. As far as the other stats, can feel very nice to invest a decent amount in the weapon stat, because even though you are slinging a lot of grenades, you're still shooting your guns quite a bit because of that empowered weapon damage. So I like getting a little bit in the weapon stat. Class stat is not really that necessary, to be honest. I wouldn't worry about the class stat at all because of how much class ability energy you're getting when you deal final blows with your fusion grenades. So even if you're not getting a full class ability refund every single grenade final blow, a full class ability refund every 2, 3, even 4 grenade final blows will be more than okay. The other stats, super doesn't matter that much because you're really just popping your Well of Radiance down for like a boss DPS phase. Health doesn't really matter at all. You don't care about health per orb because you have permanent restoration up. And melee, you don't really care about that much either, because even with 22 melee, y'all saw how fast we were getting our melee back through the Ember of Searing and from being airborne with heat rises. So you really just want to all in on 200 grenade and then like as much weapon stat as you can possibly get. That's going to be DPS City for you right there, and it's going to feel absolutely spectacular. One thing I do want to test out though, super stat could potentially be beneficial if Well of Radiance works now as it did previously, in the sense that all weapon damage coming from a caster's Well of Radiance actually counts as super damage, and therefore anything that increases super damage increases weapon damage from a Well of Radiance. So I actually do kind of want to test that out real quick. So if I come over here and I plot my Well of Radiance down next to Carl, I'm doing 41 to the head. Nice and simple. Make sure we don't get any like range differences or anything like that. 41 to the head. Now let me run over here and let me get over 100 on my super stat. So now I'm at 109. So I am actually doing 3.6% bonus super damage. So is that also going to increase my weapon damage by 3.6%? And the answer looks like no, as far as I can tell. Yeah, I would say super stat is not really a big deal with Starfire. All in 200 grenade stat, dump the rest of your points and weapons, maybe a little bit in the class stat, just a touch, maybe a little bit in the melee stat, just a touch, if you have any left over to work with, and then you're pretty much good to go right there. As far as mods go, I know the knee-jerk reaction is probably going to be go ashes to assets because of how many grenade final blows you're getting, so you have bonus super energy. But I feel like you just don't need that much uptime on your super, to be completely honest. I would definitely go Harmonic Siphon without a shadow of a doubt, so you get orbs of power from your solar weapon final blows for sure. I would probably go like a heavy ammo finder, maybe 1 ashes to assets, and then a Harmonic Siphon is what I would probably run on the helmet. Down on the gloves, we definitely do want a firepower, so our grenade final blows create orbs of power for sure. And honestly, right here, if you're unable to get to 200 grenade stat, run a grenade font mod so that when your armor charge, you get 20 bonus grenade stat, which is going to be equivalent to approximately a 13% bonus damage to grenade, because every 10 stat points is approximately a 6.5% boost to your grenade ability damage if you were in the 100 to 200 range. So if your armor charge, this mod is basically equivalent to 13% bonus grenade damage, which I really like. Honestly, I mean, from a math perspective, if you think about it, it's better because we can either pay 3 energy for a mod that gives us permanent plus 10 grenade, or we could pay that same 3 energy to get a mod that gives us circumstantially bonus 20 grenade. But as long as we maintain armor charge uptime, which shouldn't be too difficult with a Harmonic Siphon and with firepower, we're pretty much always going to have that. So we have plus 40 grenade stat, which is equivalent to 26% bonus grenade damage anytime we're armor charged. So as long as we maintain armor charge uptime, we're actually winning right there. And we can still throw in a 5 grenade stat mod right here for a bonus 3.25%. So yeah, this is actually a way better way to spend our energy. Class, let's go ahead and throw on our concussive dampener. Always love me a concussive dampener. And then honestly, I would probably maybe go a charged up mod and then perhaps a harmonic resistance if I had enough ascendant shards to upgrade this. And the reason for that is because down on the boots, we don't really need anything that gives us ability regeneration and orb of power pickup. We could maybe go with an innervation mod if we want to, just to supplement our grenade uptime even more. But I really like the idea of having something like stacks on stacks here, because then every single time we pick up an orb of power, we're getting 2 stacks of armor charge, which is equivalent to 20 seconds of armor charge, which is 20 seconds of plus 40 grenade stat. So if we have charged up and we can house a maximum of 4 armor charge stacks and we only need 2 orbs of power to fill up those charges, then boom, that's 40 seconds of plus 40 grenade stat, 40 seconds of plus 26% bonus grenade damage. Then on the class item, Reaper is an absolute no-brainer considering how often our class ability is up. Every single grenade we throw, boom, it's back. And even if your class stat is much lower, it's every like 2 grenades. Very easy for orb of power generation, which is super important for our font mods. What if we went like a time dilation mod? I think could be spectacular, because if we go time dilation, then it just turned all of our armor charge stacks from 10 seconds apiece into 15 seconds apiece. Then we throw on a bomber mod so that every time we cast our class ability, we get some grenade energy back. How is that looking when our grenade stat is as high as it is? If I throw both of these grenades, how much am I getting back from bomber? It's nothing crazy, but it's an okay amount. I'm liking that. I'm actually liking that a lot. So to showcase the rotations of the build, the ability rotations that you want to do, kind of how you want to play it, how you want to use it, and to showcase what it's capable of, I have loaded up the final campaign mission of the legendary Lightfall campaign. Didn't want to do the Edge of Fate campaign because I didn't want anyone to see any spoilers or anything like that for anyone who wants to put this build together and use it for the legendary Edge of Fate campaign. So I just want to show it off here. So we want to eat one of our grenades so we get our heat rises, pop our dive for restoration, and our melee for radiant. Now we have permanent restoration ×2 and radiant as long as we continuously get kills. And as you can see, it kind of makes us borderline invincible. All of these enemies are shooting us and our health bar is just non-stop spiking back up top. We do want to try to remain airborne as much as possible to extend the duration of our heat rises whenever we get kills while we're airborne. And so that we get melee energy back, just so the melee is up if we do run out of radiant, because of how important radiant is for the empowered weapon damage. That is what fuels our continuous grenade refund. When it comes to heat rises, if you stand completely still, you won't really fall down as quickly as if you're moving in the air, which makes staying airborne way easier. But we're just go ahead slinging fusion grenade after fusion grenade, absolutely blowing everything up. And I haven't had to refresh radiant or restoration a single time. Just killing these guys with my solar abilities and my solar weapon and extending those 2 buffs through the Ember of Empyrean is all that's necessary. So just to give another idea of how the build rotation works, eat a grenade so that we're going to get that heat rises, melee plus dive for the radiant plus restoration, and then get a couple of kills to get the restoration stacking and the radiant stacking. And then ideally we get into a situation where our restoration timer is very high and our radiant timer is very high. And then all we have to do is continuously blast enemies and sling grenades at enemies, especially by killing the higher tiered targets. That's going to increase our buffs significantly more, because the Ember of Empyrean gives you bonus time based on killing tankier enemies like mini bosses and elites and things of that nature. But even if you do run out of your restoration timer, nice and easy, just go ahead and hit another Phoenix dive, which you're going to have plenty of, because every time you get a final blow with one of your fusion grenades, it's going to refund your Phoenix dive. You can even rip the Phoenix dive while you still have restoration up, and it'll just add a couple of seconds to your restoration time too, so you don't even need your restoration to be completely gone. Realistically, anytime your Phoenix dive is available, you should honestly just go ahead and use it. There's no real good reason not to. And then as you can see on the left side of my screen, both of my buffs are up for the maximum amount of time, 15 seconds. I can just go ahead and continuously carve through enemies, get that empowered weapon damage, sling grenades, sling my dive. Dive is also going to deal a little bit of damage to enemies by scorching them a bit, sling another fusion grenade at him, and so on and so forth. You kind of get the idea. Go ahead and throw on this build, give it a whirl on some legendary campaign missions, and let me know what you think. If you enjoyed this build, please be sure to like the video. If you want to see additional Edge of Fate builds, or just builds at any time for the foreseeable future in Destiny, please be sure to subscribe to the channel so I can get you covered with all of the best builds that the game has to offer. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a great day.